Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage ADDF CEO, Mark Roithmare.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Roithmare, and I am the CEO of the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation. I feel so privileged to be with you today at my first ever fall luncheon as CEO. As you will hear today, the ADDF is making a real difference in Alzheimer's by advancing the most promising drugs across the world. And we can do that thanks to each and every one of you and your generosity. A nonprofit is only as strong as its donors, and the ADDF will succeed in our mission to conquer Alzheimer's because of each and every one of you. In fact, I'm thrilled to announce that this year's luncheon is record-setting, both in attendance and dollars raised, over a 30% increase from last year. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is a great honor to introduce our host today, who is a member of the ADDF's board and one of our most ardent supporters. In fact, we consider her a member of the family. You will know her as a 9-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, host of NYC Arts on WNET, and Discovery ID's weekly crime show On the Case with Paula Zahn. And she is an accomplished cellist who's even performed at Carnegie Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the incomparable Paula Zahn.
When you say Mark is off to a great start, bravo. Best turnout yet. Thank you very, very much for joining us here this afternoon. I am honored to be with you. Today is, as you know, by looking at the program book, the 8th annual Alzheimer's Research Charles Evans Award, and I truly, truly appreciate all of your support. Each year, the Hope on the Horizon Luncheon honors an outstanding supporter of Alzheimer's research with the Charles Evans Award, and we thank Bonnie Pfeiffer Evans and Alice Shore of the Charles Evans Foundation for creating this award and for joining us this afternoon. Bonnie and Alice, I'd love for you to stand up now so we can give you a giant warm welcome. And we very much look forward to presenting the award to our wonderful friend, Sharon Sager, a little bit later on. Leonard leading the chairing today. As the event's name implies, hope is what we are here to talk about this afternoon. Hope for the 47 million people across the globe with Alzheimer's, and for the estimated 75 million who will have it by 2030 if we don't act. My mother is among the millions with this disease, and I know many of you have friends and families who have been affected, so you understand the very raw pain of what it is like to watch someone you love deeply see their soul, see their mind dim right before your eyes. So we all need hope. We need a way to treat Alzheimer's or even prevent it. And the ADDF is the only charity finding drugs to prevent and treat Alzheimer's. When you donate to the ADDF, every single dollar, 100% goes to drug research. And today you can support this life-saving research and have a little fun too by participating in the door prize drawing. Each donation is a chance to win a prize donated by our magnificent supporters. Thank you, all of you. And all you have to do is fill out the envelope that you'll find on the middle of your table to be entered to win. This year's goal is $100,000, so please be generous. The staff will come to your tables to collect the envelopes during lunch, and the winners' names will be drawn and posted outside the ballroom at the end of the luncheon. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce the ADDF's co-founder and co-chairman, Ronald Lauder, who will tell us about what the ADDF is doing to bring us hope and potentially a cure. Ronald?
Thank you, Paula. I don't know if we're getting more interested or getting older. 8 years ago, we decided to call this event Hope on the Horizon because cures for Alzheimer were still in the distance. We knew they were out there, but we weren't even close. Today we are. There are nearly 130 drugs in clinical trials for Alzheimer's. 20% of them are there because of the support from ADDF. And without this organization, some of the best ideas to cure Alzheimer's never would have gotten off the ground because they were new, and new is always considered risky. New is untested. Recently, I was with an event with Dr. Roberta Diaz-Brinton, who is an Alzheimer researcher. And she was talking about developing a drug that she's working on. She said that when she started, people called her crazy. She couldn't get any funding until the ADDF stepped in. Now, over a decade later, they call her innovative. In fact, she is director of a center for innovation and in brain science at the University of Arizona. And our drug, unless I get this right, allopregnanolone, is in phase 2 clinical trials. She wasn't crazy. She's brilliant. And she is on to something. And she's not the only one. Down in Baltimore, we are funding Dr. Michaela Gallagher and her company, Agenebio. Dr. Gallagher had another bold idea, to treat patients before they got Alzheimer's. My belief is that is probably the future. She discovered that people with a condition called mild cognitive impairment, I think it gives all of us, have overactivity in their brains that damage brain cells. Her drug, AGB 101, limits this objectivity and protects the brain. It's possible that by intervening at this stage, patients will never progress to Alzheimer's. Her early clinical trials were supported by ADDF, and now, with support from NIH, she's going to start phase 3 trials. That's the final hurdle before FDA approval. If the trial is successful, AGB 101 could be available in just a few years. We could have a drug that prevents Alzheimer's for some patients, thanks to the investment from ADDF. Those investments are made possible by all of you, and so I thank you. Clinical trials are the final stages of drugs development. It can take over a decade of hard work to get that far, and most drugs never make it. More and more of the ideas supported by ADDF are making it. But clinical trials are expensive. It takes millions of dollars to do this work. And we are going to do more. That's because to win a race, you don't slow down when you see the finish line. You push harder. To do that, we need you. We need your push. We need your support, your commitment. I want you to know that every dollar you donate goes directly to research because Len and I underwrite all of the overhead. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce once again Dr. Howard Phillip of ADDF, who is going to tell us about 3 more promising clinical trials featured in this morning's symposium. Howard? Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much, Ronald. I want to thank to all of you for coming here today. As most of you know, I've had the privilege of working with Ronald and Leonard to achieve their vision of accelerating the development of new drugs for Alzheimer's disease since 1998, when the foundation was first incorporated. Our mission is very clear. It's a world in which older people remain contributing and productive members of society. It's a world where older people have meaningful lives and share their wisdom with loved ones and coworkers. And of course, it's a world where older people are loving grandparents and maybe even one day great-grandparents. A world with quality of life to the end of our days. But today, Alzheimer's disease remains the most common cause of impaired quality of life in old age for both the afflicted and the many, many caregivers and loved ones who are taking care of them. 18 years ago, we started with a desk and a phone and a vision of a world without Alzheimer's disease. Little did I know at that time that the desk and chair I was sitting on would end up in Ronald's Neue Gallery as a priceless work of early 20th century art. With all humility, I must say to you that we've come a long way. We have made great contributions. We have advanced the field all over the world. We've moved many drugs from idea to chemistry to regulatory science and now into human clinical trials. Alzheimer's disease is a uniquely human disease, and we must test these drugs in humans to even get our first signals of effectiveness and efficacy and, of course, safety. We've moved many drugs into the clinic, and we hope to create the amyloid biomarkers that are now a critical standard for most human clinical trials. As a perspective, when I started in this field almost more than 35 years ago, there were no clinical trials in Alzheimer's disease. I actually ran one of the first clinical trials in 1982 of estrogens for postmenopausal women at Rockefeller University. Today, there are over 120 drugs in clinical trials, comprising almost 240 clinical trials. To me, from nothing, this is an amazing advance in our field. And we've learned how to do these clinical trials better, so we're going to get better answers from the clinical trials we're doing. And to me, again, with all humility, the fact that ADDF has contributed to almost a third of the clinical trials that are going on around the world today, this modest foundation that we started, is incredible. It's just, it's a humbling statistics. As Ronald mentioned, these trials are expensive. They cost millions of dollars. And by phase 3, one clinical trial in Alzheimer's costs about $400 million. And we need at least 2 of them to get an approval. But that shouldn't dissuade us, because innovation in our field comes in phase 0, in phase 1, and in phase 2A. That's where we first test these drugs in humans to find out if they might work and get to the stage where we can start to attract the big capital and investors that are going to move the drug forward from that point. We live in the valley of death, but we also live in the world of innovation in clinical trials, and that's much more and more our focus at ADDF. As Ronald mentioned, and was mentioned earlier, though, we still have a long way to go. Tremendous advances in cancer have been driven by the fact that we've had cancer research in our country since the 1920s, when Albert Lasker Jr. started his cancer foundation in honor of his wife. And there are over 3,000 clinical trials going on now in cancer. So we must do more. At this morning's symposium, we heard about 3 early-stage clinical trials and 2 companies and an academic investigator who are advancing this work. And I'd like to introduce them to you here today. If they'll stand up, please. Dr. Lean Kawas, Dr. Jerry Wook. Where's Lean? If I see her. Oh, there she is. Lean, please. Dr. Jerry Rook, where is Jerry? Jerry's back there. Thank you, Jerry. And Dr. Mark Gurney. Where is Mark? Mark is over there. Thank you, Mark. These people are heroes. I mean, they're pushing a huge stone up a huge hill. Chance of success is slim, but they're dedicated, they're entrepreneurs, and they're going to succeed. I know that. We helped Dr. Lean Cowis to found her company, M3 Biotechnology, in Seattle, to advance her drug, NDX 1017. It's one of the very few regenerative drugs to have made it to clinical trial in Alzheimer's disease. The drug activates a growth factor called HGF, which helps our brain cells repair and even regrow. This process is called neurogenesis, and it has the potential to reestablish the lost connections between brain cells, the synapses, that impair cognition. And we're very hopeful that her phase 1 trial will really yield tremendous results, particularly because she's using some innovative biomarkers. Dr. Rook is from Vanderbilt University, the Center for Neuroscience in Drug Discovery. The ADDF has been supporting Dr. Rook's work for over 6 years now, and she has a drug called VU319 in human phase 1 clinical trials. We started working with her when she was still in animals. She had to go through the process of the regulatory science, file this much paperwork, show the government that she could manufacture this compound cleanly and successfully according to what's called GMP, good manufacturing practices, show that the drug was safe in animals. These are all called IND-enabling studies. They're expensive. They're not sexy. There's very few sources of funding for it, but it's the only way that we're going to get novel therapeutics into human beings for testing. And we've done that with Jerry every step of the way, and now she is in phase 1. And I must say that she's also a hero because she did all of this at an academic medical center and not in the big pharma. And our final panelist at the symposium was Dr. Mark Gurney, who is the founder of Tetra Discovery Partners in Michigan. Dr. Gurney is a leading researcher in Alzheimer's, and he was one of the scientists who discovered a molecule called BACE, a beta secretase, which is the enzyme that is the first cleavage in the production of beta amyloid, which is currently the focus of half of the clinical trials going on now around the world for Alzheimer's disease, using what are called BACE inhibitors. And several of these are actually in phase 3. The drug Mark is working on now is called BPN 14770, and this drug works through genetic mechanisms to improve synaptic strength, and we won't go into the details, but it's a very novel approach to improving synaptic function in Alzheimer's disease, regrowing synapses, and promoting cognitive function and treating the illness, hopefully both in terms of improving symptoms and also slowing the rate of decline. I want to thank all our panelists for being here today and continuing the fight to conquer Alzheimer's. We've given them over $4 million, and their projects are only 3 of over 100 active drug programs that the ADDF is supporting around the world for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias at this time. But without a doubt, I wouldn't be standing here today, and we wouldn't be able to do this research without all of your support. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your faith in us, and I want to thank you for working with us to conquer Alzheimer's disease. I know that we will be able to do it. And now I want to invite you to enjoy the rest of your meal and remind you, if you haven't already, to please look at your prize envelopes. Give your prize envelopes to one of the staff. I've been instructed to say that. After lunch, we'll continue the awards ceremony. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, and welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your heart-healthy lunch. Ronald Lauder was giving it 2 thumbs up. It was great, really, really good. Before we go any further, I want to take the opportunity to say hello to Leonard Lauder, who we haven't had a chance to recognize this afternoon, his beautiful wife, Judy. Yay! Leonard has a real problem today. Does he go with pink in honor of breast cancer awareness or the purple ribbon in honor of Alzheimer's? Do you have a twofer on? I guess you do. I couldn't see it from here. You can say that when you come up. As you probably know, November is National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month, and it starts in just a few days. So the purple ribbon that I'm wearing and that Leonard is wearing is in support of Alzheimer's patients, their families, and the researchers who are working so hard to beat this disease. So if you didn't pick up a ribbon, try to get one on the way out, and don't forget to show your support by filling out the door prize donation. This is your last chance. I was actually going to get Howard Phillip to come back to beg you to fill out those envelopes for the door prize. You'll see a number of staff members circulating to collect them now. We all know that Alzheimer's doesn't always get as much support as other diseases, especially with federal and industry funding, and that is why philanthropy is so critically important. And every year at this luncheon, we honor those philanthropists who really go above and beyond in their support for Alzheimer's research. This year's honoree, Sharon Sager, is no exception, as you will hear, and I have never seen such a cheering section. Sharon, I have such great respect, not only for support for the ADDF, but what you're doing for these remarkable young women who you are taking time to mentor in your illustrious career. So bravo to you for that. And there are probably some remarkable young men you're mentoring too, but I just had the opportunity to meet the young women as we were passing by to our favorite room in the back. It is now my pleasure to introduce the ADDF's co-founders and co-chairmen, Leonard and Ronald Lauder, who will present this year's Charles Evans Award.
First, my younger brother.
Okay. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Paula. You're such a terrific host. Now, Ronald and I have shared life for our entire lives, okay? We also share the same back problems on occasion, and the same this and the same that, and Ronald can set his life watch and saying, when did you get such and such? Now, we decided that what we would do is he would let me tell one Ronald Lauder joke. One. No more.
My joke.
His joke, but I'm not going to tell you my joke. Come back next year, and you'll get my joke next year. So we were both at a dinner in Washington, D.C., and Henry Kissinger was one of the honorees. And he stood up there and said, you know, in his voice, I am now 90 years of age, and I still have my marbles. Come in. So I owe Ronald one. But listen, Alzheimer's is no joking matter because it's serious for all of us. But what thrills me about what we're doing here is that we are all dedicated to finding a way to prevent and cure it. Why? Number one, there are no survivors. Number two, there are many family members who feel the disease because they're taking care of their loved ones, but they don't have it either. And number three, if we wait long enough to wait for the knock on the door, it may come to us. That's why we all have to join hands to make sure that this disease is conquered, and it will be conquered thanks to all of you. Thank you. Now, Ronald, the original idea of the creation of this charity was Ronald's. Ronald's at Howard Phillott, and Dr. Howard Phillott, they founded something called the Institute for the Study of Aging. And Ronald asked me to be his partner and join the board. I did. And since Ronald is my older brother, when I didn't show up, he said, "Where were you?" But Ronald, your genius and your idea, joined with all the people here in this room, will conquer this disease. So I thank you.
Thank you. You like this?
You're on. You're on.
Thank you. Leonard told it better than Henry Kissinger. Thank you, and thank you, Paula. You're a terrific host, and we do appreciate all you do for ADDF. Leonard and I are here to present the Charles Evans Award to a very deserving recipient, Sharon Sager. The award was created by Alice Shaw and Bonnie Pfeiffer Evans, who are trustees of the Charles Evans Foundation and the ADDF. Alice and Bonnie wanted to honor philanthropists who make a significant contribution to Alzheimer's research. I'd like to invite them on the stage. Well, no. By the way, Paula was right. All the people involved are women in the cosmetic business. Our honoree, Sharon Sager, is Managing Director of Wealth Management at UBS Financial Services, and she's been named one of the nation's top wealth advisors by the Financial Times, Barron's, and Fortune. She understands that success is about building strong relationships. Sharon has said that her special family ties is more important, and that makes perfect sense. Alzheimer's is about family dynamics also. It's a family disease. It affects parents, and it affects many people who love and care for them. You have to plan for it financially. You have to protect yourself and your loved one. Sharon helps people do that, and she goes the extra mile with her philanthropy. She joined ADDF's Board of Directors shortly after becoming a supporter, and not long after that, she became its chair. Sharon ensures that the ADDF can find and fund the best drugs out there for Alzheimer's. Thank you, Sharon, for all you do, making sure that as many people can be involved and that hope is really on the horizon. On behalf of Alice, Bonnie, my brother Leonard, it's an honor to present the Charles Evans Award to Sharon Sager.
Thank you, Ronald. Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
I kissed you.
Yes. Thank you.
We'll put it inside here.
Great, okay.
Don't forget it.
I won't. Thank you. Thank you, Ronald, and also thanks to Alice, Bonnie, Leonard, and the entire board of the ADDF. This is truly a humbling honor, and I share this award with my husband, Loring Swayze, who sustains me in everything I do. I thank him, my family, my friends, and all of my UBS colleagues for their support and generosity. Leonard once shared with me that the 3 keys to a good speech are be bright, be brief, be seated. So at the very least, I promise to be brief. When Leonard and Ronald told me I'd been chosen for this award, I was shocked, because it was just 6 years ago that I was sitting where you are as a first-time guest at this fall luncheon. That year, the author, Joan Sutton Strauss, spoke of her struggle as the wife of an Alzheimer's patient. She shared the anguish she felt watching the light that once animated her brilliant husband go out bit by bit. And as she spoke, I remembered my first encounter with Alzheimer's. It was during my sophomore year in high school. My father and I had gone to visit my grandma Sager at the Madonna residence on Prospect Park West. Back then, it was called a nursing home. Today, it would be assisted living. During our visit, my grandmother told us that no one ever came to visit her. Now, I knew that wasn't true. My Uncle Bert had been there the day before, and my dad had been there the last week. But she didn't remember seeing them. So as we left that day, I looked up at my father, and for the first time in my life, I saw him crying. Seeing my father's pain was a profound experience, and like a scar, I carry that memory with me to this day. And that's what Alzheimer's does. It doesn't just affect the patients, it hurts entire families. It forces us to watch the people we love fade away, memory by memory. Joan called it a disease of the brain paid for with the currency of the heart. That's so true. Alzheimer's broke my father's heart that day, and it broke my heart 30 years later when his oldest sister, my wonderful Aunt Ruth, was suffering from the disease. So Alzheimer's is exhausting. It's exhausting financially, emotionally, and physically. Just to give you some perspective, healthcare for Alzheimer's patients will cost the U.S. $259 billion this year, and $56 billion of that will be out-of-pocket costs. So as a wealth manager, I know firsthand how much of a toll it's taking. Conversations about the impact of Alzheimer's have sadly become all too common with our clients. Whether it's the costs associated with long-term care, intricate estate planning, intergenerational wealth transfer, and even planning for what can happen when someone can no longer make critical life decisions. The long-term needs of families touched by Alzheimer's are far-reaching. But like many of you in this room, I have hope. I am optimistic that one day soon, families and their advisors won't have to plan for the Alzheimer's diagnosis. And that's why I'm passionate about the work of ADDF. ADDF uses 100% of every dollar you give to invest in the most promising research anywhere in the world. And we are closer than ever before to having effective treatments, thanks to those investments. For me, it's very personal. I have 5 siblings, and the disease is actually on both sides of our family. So odds are at least one of us will be diagnosed. That terrifies me, but it also motivates me to get involved and do what I can to fight the good fight, and importantly, to champion the incredible work of the ADDF. So on behalf of my family and the millions of others who are impacted by Alzheimer's, I want to thank the Lauder family and Dr. Howard Phillip for their vision and their persistence, and our scientists and their colleagues around the world for their tireless efforts. And of course, all of you for your incredible generosity. We're closer than ever before to discovering and developing effective treatments and conquering Alzheimer's once and for all, and I look forward to a future without it. Thank you. Thank you for your...
Congratulations, Sharon. And Bonnie and Alice, thank you for your unfailing commitment to ADDF. It's been a pleasure over the years to see you join us for every one of these ceremonies. Sharon, I think you actually listened to Leonard and followed the rules beautifully. Bravo. Oh. And I truly appreciate your speaking so personally about a disease that's so hard for us who have family members who we've witnessed the decline to talk about. Sharon often says we shouldn't give until it hurts, but until it feels good. Because curing Alzheimer's is going to feel great. And on behalf of the entire board of the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation, I'd like to thank Leonard and Judy Lauder. One more time, we get to say thank you. Ronald and Joe Carroll Lauder, along with the entire executive and co-chairs of this event. And let's not forget our sponsors, SD Lauder and UBS. I'd also like to express our gratitude to Dr. Fillett and the panelists from this morning's symposiums, Drs. Kawas, Rook, and Gurney, for the critical work they are doing to bring us effective drugs for Alzheimer's, and of course to all of you for supporting this noble cause and the work of ADDF. Because of you, we are closing in on a cure. So before you leave, don't forget to check to see if you actually won a door prize on your way out. Pick one of your purple ribbons. And I salute all of you for making this the most successful luncheon we've had so far in the history of this wonderful organization. We look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you again.